Hello, today is Monday, November 13th, 2023. Sitting to my right, as always, is my co-host and full-time lawyerman, Thomas Frey. To our left and in front of us is producer Rue. I'm Adam Hartog, and this is episode 30, the Henrik Lundqvist episode of the Breaksdown podcast, powered by 528 Collectibles, the flagship program of the 528 Multimedia Network. We have an exciting show for you guys today. We're going to talk about some big shakeups in the world of college football, a little playoff prediction. Then the meat of our program is going to be the NFL, our usual discussion with storylines, disappointments, surprises, and games to watch. We're also going to do some basketball. I forgot to mention that in the housekeeping segment. Then we're going to move on to our fan favorite segment, Random Awards. We're going to do our mini helmet giveaway, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll get into that later. And then we're going to do bold prediction of the year.
Of the week.
As usual. So it's going to be a fun program, and I'll shut up and let us get into it. All right, recording this just before 8 p.m. on Monday night. It was an exciting weekend on and off the field in both the NCAA and the NFL. The big news out of college football, Jimbo Fisher has been fired by Texas Agricultural and Mechanical University, and he got the biggest buyout, as far as I know, in the history of sports.
So since this is a buyout, is it the type of... you may not have the answer to this, but typically when coaches get fired, they're owed the remainder of their salary unless they get another job.
It's non-offsetting.
He's keeping all of it?
In the case of his buyout, yeah, it's non-offsetting.
Wow, so he could get another head coaching gig somewhere and still be getting $7.5 million annually for the next, 7 years?
So it's $20 million, do it in 60 days of Sunday morning. Then it's installments of $7.5 or so million, I think, through 2031.
That's good money.
That is good money, yeah.
Good for Jim Bob.
And this is Texas, so as far as I know, entirely tax-free. I'm not sure if he's a Southern football coach, so it's not like he's going to move to a high-tax state, but he's keeping all of it. The price of oil has been up, so I'm not even kidding. That's actually something that contributes to this decision I've heard. Because going into the season, I heard there were rumors that he was maybe on the hot seat, and this was a couple months ago, and people were like, the price of oil is down a little bit, so they're probably not willing to write that check now. Maybe revisit in a couple months.
That's wild that's a real consideration in whether or not to fire their head football coach.
Yeah, for $77 million.
So much money. That's so much money. I mean...
He's got the best job in America, fired college football coach.
It doesn't get better.
No, when Coach O got fired, he had a press conference, and he was all giddy, which is unusual for a fired coach, but they were like how'd it go down? How do you feel? And he was like, they sat me down and they said, Coach, you've got $17.5 million on your contract. We're going to give it to you. And he goes, all right, well, what time you want me to leave and what door you want me out of, brother?
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, collecting all that money for doing nothing now it's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, and he's now a big-time fired college football coach, so by law, I think he has to end up on the Alabama staff at some point.
Alabama staff or straight to ESPN.
Yeah, true. And then throw your name back out in the candidacy after a year. Mm-hmm. He had a 45-25 record in 6 seasons at A&M. The highest ever finish was 4th in the COVID season 2020 in an all-conference schedule, and that's a good record in the SEC, but when you're being paid 8 figures a year, they need more than 8 wins consistently.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, it's just not what they're paying for.
Yeah. The athletic director, Ross Bjork, said that the program was stuck in neutral, and now this immediately becomes the talk of the coaching college football. I don't even know off-season, because if they get to the off-season without having their guy lined up, it'd be surprising. But this is there's different rankings of jobs in college football, and even within the SEC, this is going to be the most coveted job of the offseason. They have so much money from the boosters that they're willing to throw in. I mean, their 2022 recruiting class, which was the highest rated class of all time, it's estimated that they spent $30 million on the boosters. So they pretty much can go after anybody.
So who do you think they're going to go after?
So there's been a couple names floated out there. I wrote them down on like the notes page. I color-coded them. So the pink this is bad podcasting, but the pink is who I think is unrealistic, then green, more realistic, and blue I think would be bad. Mm-hmm. So in terms of like what did I say pink was unrealistic? Pink is gold, like gold standard hire, I guess. Like this would be an A+.
Okay.
And it's Dan Lanning from Oregon and Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. Lanning is I think 38. And he's been awesome since he took the Oregon job. Last year was his first season. He was the Georgia DC before this. So he's like an SEC guy, and SEC guys tend to get pulled back to the SEC at some point. And Oregon's last 2 coaches left for other jobs, and they're pretty like hurt about being used as a stepping stone because that's not what they're supposed to be. And Oregon has a ton of money, but it's not. It's like uniforms and facilities money that is stuff that is basically serves as advertisements for Nike. It's not like, let me buy this recruit's parents a house near campus kind of money.
Mm-hmm. There's one name that's shockingly absent from this list, and it's Eli Drinkwitz.
Dude, honestly, I haven't thought about that at all, but I think that would be a very sensible and like not safe because that downplays it a little bit, but like, oh, here's a guy that had success in the SEC rebuilding a program with a fraction of the resources.
That's what I'm saying, man. Eli Drinkwitz is poised to do big things.
Yeah, so he actually, I would put him in the second tier of like good hires and realistic. But to close out like the home run guys, it's Lane Kiffin, who at Ole Miss has established one of the most explosive offenses in the country in the couple seasons he's been there. A&M fans have been like hating Jimbo for years because his offense has been terrible all the time. So this would be probably a welcome change for them. And for Kiffin, it's an upgrade, even though Ole Miss is going into this weekend a top 10 ranked in the country SEC team. The athletes that you get at Ole Miss just doesn't compare with the ones you get in Texas. So it would be an upgrade for him.
Name brand matters in college football. That's why Texas is such an institution, even though they were down on their luck for so many years.
Yeah. And there's like a couple states that you could just recruit in-state and win a championship at, and Texas is definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you want to tell them your green names, whatever your green thing means?
Yeah, okay, so the green ones, which I think are sensible hires that are very realistic but maybe won't get the fan base as excited as the 2 guys previously mentioned. Mike Elko from Duke, Jeff Traylor from UTSA, and Jeff Lebby, but the team is escaping my mind at the moment. I'm having a brain fart.
And Eli Drinkwitz from Mizzou. Until we figure out Jeff Lebby's program.
He's the OC at Oklahoma.
Okay.
I forgot where he was for a second. So Elko was the DC at Texas A&M for a couple seasons before he took the job at Duke. And as we've talked about before, he did nearly the impossible, and he turned Duke into a football school.
Yeah, not full-time, just shared.
Yeah,
to be clear.
And this is the kind of hire similar to Lincoln Riley with Caleb Williams, that if Mike Elko becomes the A&M head coach, he's probably taking Riley Leonard with him, which I think is a good move. But also A&M has Connor Weigman, who was a 5-star recruit at quarterback. He's hurt this season, and Max Johnson is playing, who's terrible. But that probably sets off a carousel or a domino effect there, where Weigman moves to another program, perhaps a Mizzou if Drinkwitz stays. Perhaps, yes. Entirely perhaps. And then Jeff Traylor is the next guy at UTSA. It's been well documented what he's done to them since their turnaround in the post-COVID season 2021. They were really good. They played in a big bowl. I forgot which one it was, but they spent a couple weeks ranked. And he's a coach that came up through the Texas high school rankings. He won 3 state championships, so he has connections all over the state. And it's probably going to be pretty important for them to hire somebody that has those connections within the state for recruiting purposes. So that would probably be a home run hire there.
Jeff Tractor Trailer, if you will.
Yeah, because he's paving new recruiting grounds across the state.
I'm glad that you turned that into having an actual reason behind it instead of just me being dumb.
No, that was your reason.
I could
tell it in just the way you said it, that it was just on the tip of your tongue. And then Jeff Lebby, former quarterback at OU and the OC there now. He's like an up-and-coming hot name kind of coaching candidate, the same way like Kellen Moore gets thrown around in NFL circles. The odds are that they won't make a move like this just because they really need to get this one right. And, I mean, that's always been the case with A&M. They've never really had the right guy as the coach. But taking a shot on an unproven guy like that at that level is probably too dangerous waters for them to jump into now.
It also speaks to what you were talking about with the connections and everything within the state that Jeff Lebby just may not have as like an established figure within. So it just doesn't fit that criteria that you were saying they might be seeking.
Yeah, like you're right, someone like Jeff Traylor, beyond just like he coached in high school for a long time, so he knows what it's like. He knows every coach in the state, so he can call them and ask about players, stuff like that. So that could be important. And then the last tier is names that have been thrown around and that I think could be, like, could I see a world where they're really good? Yeah, but I think there's just no way that it happens now. It's Dion, it's Cliff Kingsbury, and it's Dan Campbell, the Lions coach and Texas A&M alum, who has been loosely mentioned in rumors from no one that's like an actual reporter.
So 0% chance.
The only reason it's hard to say 0% chance is because the paychecks that Texas A&M writes.
I don't know, man.
He makes $2.5 million as an NFL coach now.
I think the Lions would just give him a raise.
I also tend to agree with you that he's not going to leave because I think he's not the guy that puts his heart and soul into a project and then
jumps ship. It's like the antithesis of everything he stands for.
Yeah. I also think it would be a bad move because you can't take a risk like that if you're Texas A&M now with somebody that doesn't have college coaching experience.
Dion, I don't think he's leaving yet.
Neither do I, because also Shadur
is going back for another year.
Yeah, and even if with the new transfer rules, everybody gets one free transfer, basically no questions asked.
Okay.
And then if you transfer again, you still can get to play, but you have to get like approval from the NCAA.
Okay. And so there's a risk that he'd have to sit out a year.
Yeah, Travis Hunter too. And also for their draft stock, the best thing probably isn't to move again.
Yeah. It's also not just Shadur, his other son as well.
Yeah, Shiloh, the D-back, yeah.
So, I mean, it's just not the time for Dion to move or make an upgrade. Also, I mean, not exactly the same as Dan Campbell, but it seems like Dion at least wants to get this program off the ground a little bit. It's, they've shown obvious growth, but they're still not even close to being where he would want to get them to. And if he just jumps ship for another bigger name, I think that's not that he necessarily cares, but I think it's bad for his reputation.
I wonder if that is the Dion era is a success then if you're Colorado. I feel like even if he's there for 1 year, it still is because of how much publicity you got in that year.
I mean, marginal success because when Dion leaves, no one cares.
Yeah, true.
So, I mean, they probably gain some fans, but all the people who are there for Dion and Shadur are gone. So
it's just, did they spend enough money while they were there to make it worth it?
And Cliff Kingsbury, the other name you named, is just, I mean, I don't know. We haven't even had any evidence that he's a good coach at any level.
No, it's true, yeah. Fired from Texas Tech team where he had Mahomes. He does have that connection, though, the Texas guy.
He does.
Thing, so that's something. But, like, Dion, I agree he's not leaving yet. That would be, like, a shockwave throughout college football hire, though, because he would get everybody to play for him there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, but that's what's going to happen once he leaves Colorado. Because he's not going to downgrade. He's going to go to a much bigger school in a much bigger football state, and it's going to be a huge deal. I don't want to say he's going to dominate, but it's going to be a huge deal.
He probably will dominate if he surrounds himself with the right coordinators.
Yeah, he might.
But yeah, this is this is going to be like the story of the next couple weeks in college besides what's happening on the field. And once you know that this is going to happen, and they actually won their last game 51-10, so this decision was probably made in advance of that. But once you know that this is going to happen, you kind of have to act immediately. So firing him with a couple of weeks left lets you get an inside track on whatever candidates you want. It also helps with recruiting. Like if you keep sending Jimbo for the rest of the year and people know he's on his way out, it's going to be hard to sell recruits on coming to play for they don't even know who. Mm-hmm. So having this guy before signing day in a couple months is big. So it's going to be a critical hire for them. I mean they've been a sleeping giant for 50 plus years and they've never had the right guy to take them to the next level. Like Kirby Smart at Georgia came in and he didn't care that they hadn't won a championship since Herschel Walker was there, and he was the right coach and he recruited in the state really well and down in Florida really well, and it took him a couple years to make that a powerhouse, and the same thing should happen at A&M, if not faster because of the portal now.
Right coach, right time.
Yeah. And then the biggest game that happened on the field, number 3 Michigan beat number 10 Penn State in Happy Valley. 24-15. I've been to Happy Valley. It's cool. The campus is massive. I toured it in high school when I was looking at colleges to go to, and I went when it was their spring break, so there was nobody there.
Okay, that was probably weird.
Yeah, you had to take
town.
a bus around campus because it was so big.
Yeah, I was very against that when I was going to picking colleges.
They almost had me sold, though, because you park for the tour, like, right outside the stadium.
Well, that's how they get you.
Yeah, that's how they get me, yeah.
They were rolling out the red carpet for you.
Yeah, dude, if they had just, like, let me...
Or the blue carpet.
Yeah, the Nittany, even though that's not a color,
it's not
supposedly.
A thing. We established not a color.
If they had just let me stroll onto the field for, like, 3 seconds at Beaver Stadium, I would have been sitting here at Penn State aluminum.
Or as the English say, aluminium.
The big story before this game, Harbaugh was suspended for the last 3 games of the regular season by the Big Ten. I don't know if you saw, there was a picture of him on the tarmac because he was suspended while the team was flying to Pennsylvania. So there's a picture of him, like, talking to what looked like police or, like, agents on the tarmac outside the plane. It looked like a GTA scene. It was pretty cool.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that.
Let me try to pull it up quickly, if you don't mind. That's him in the Jordan, Michigan stuff.
Emergency tarmac meeting.
Yeah.
Is what the headline says.
Oh, yeah, it does. You're right. So he was suspended for this game. Michigan filed for a temporary restraining order before the game in hopes that he would be able to coach. I don't really know anything about that.
It's just like an injunction. It's meant to just stay the proceedings, essentially. It's nothing like... Doesn't mean anything. It's basically just putting a delay on it and hoping that they can get the suspension pushed either, for the appeal and get the suspension, like, kicked, or you push it back to next year, theoretically.
So is this like when Brady was suspended for 4 games for Deflategate and then fought it for a whole season and then was suspended the next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very similar. I mean, that's my guess. I don't know the details of it, but that's my guess.
And then the whole Michigan team, basically, when they found out that he was suspended, tweeted bet, so that was weird. Corny.
I just don't know what that, why? Like, why bet?
I guess it's just like...
I know what bet means. Like, it's like a word, but, like, I don't know.
I don't exactly... My guess is, like, all right, watch, kind of.
I don't know. It's whatever. It is corny. I don't like it.
I didn't bet on either team.
Should have bet on Michigan.
I guess. I should have bought some Wolverines.
See, that was the confusion. This was not them saying, like, oh, word, just watch. This was them saying bet. Bet. They're giving you advice.
That seems like a bad decision for them to all do that while they're under close watch by the NCAA.
Hey, man.
Give gambling advice on their own games.
They didn't tell you what to bet. It was just advice. It's just good for FanDuel primarily and DraftKings, I'd imagine. So probably get some good NIL money from them.
I was listening to the Simmons podcast, and he was talking because they have a deal with FanDuel like we'll have, and they was like talking about how a prop that he made and they promoted cost them $2 million, and he was like, yeah, suck it, FanDuel, as if they don't like
have a
love that he's doing that, and like they finally won one so that they could promote it more.
Yeah, it's all It all comes around.
So Michigan won this with an overcommitment almost to the run game and good defense. They ran 46 times for 227 yards. Blake Corum, 145 and 2 scores. So when I did my little preview of the game and I talked all about Penn State's stout run defense, first nationally in the country, I guess no one showed that to Michigan.
Yeah, must have missed that memo.
Yeah. J.J. McCarthy only threw 8 times, completed 7 of them for 60 yards. Penn State struggled again to move the ball through the air. Drew Aller was 11 for 23 for 74 yards. This is his second stinker in as many big games against Michigan and Ohio State. Penn State has since fired their OC Mike Yurcich, and Michigan versus Ohio State is in 2 weeks. I don't have a ton on this game besides what happened. So on the game, my guess is that they were afraid to lose in the shock of the Harbaugh thing, and they just played it as safe as they possibly could, knowing they could win.
Yeah, that seems to be. When you run the ball 46 times, yeah, it's more so, I don't want to say playing scared, but playing safe and trying to control time of possession, essentially. Have the ball as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, and J.J. McCarthy's a Heisman candidate, so it's not like this is just how they win usually, so I think you're right. And then on the suspension, I honestly think that if the Big Ten didn't feel secure about its chances of getting at least one school into the playoff, they wouldn't have fired Harbaugh.
Suspended
Harbaugh, because if Ohio State beats Michigan and part of that is because Harbaugh's not on the sidelines, then Ohio State's going to get in. But if Ohio State had one or, God forbid, 2 losses and the threat of them beating Michigan and the Big Ten having no teams in the playoff existed, I don't think they would have suspended him.
Makes sense to me. It's conspiratorial, but it's not, because it just is probably the truth.
I think so, yeah. And then of Michigan's 10, 12, however many, I guess 10 through this point games, Harbaugh, he will have coached 4 of them at the end of the regular season.
That's pretty crazy.
The self-imposed suspension for the first 3, externally imposed suspension for the last 3.
That's kind of hilarious.
Yeah. And they could just try to fight. If he has one foot out the door for the NFL, they could just, like you said, try to fight this through the season, knowing that nothing's going to happen to anyone ever.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how the TRO will work, but we'll see.
Yeah. And then the other big game that happened, number 2 Georgia whooped number 9 Ole Miss 52-17. This was tied 14-all, I think in the first quarter, maybe early second. So this was all Georgia after that. These guys just don't play the same sport.
This was big for Georgia.
Yeah, this was if the Eagles came out and whooped somebody good. Just they haven't been this good at any point this season.
No, I mean, we've been saying all year that Georgia doesn't look like the Georgia of old, but now they do.
Yeah,
at the right time.
Now they just beat a top 10 team by 35.
Yeah.
It's the 27th straight victory for Georgia. Their offense was unstoppable. 300 yards of offense in each half. Touchdown on the first 4 drives of the game. And some are now calling Ole Miss potentially the worst 10-win team in SEC history.
When you say some, does that mean you or does that mean actually some?
It doesn't mean me.
Okay.
I haven't called them that yet. I'm going to do some research into it.
Okay.
But I've heard them being called that on other college football podcasts.
Just checking.
Yeah. I will let you know if I concur with it after my research, though.
Okay. Keep me posted.
Yes, of course. And then Georgia now has a date with Alabama in the SEC championship game in Atlanta, and we'll get into it in a little bit later in their college football talk of what could happen depending on the outcome of that game. But that's just the SEC matchup that I've become accustomed to over the last decade. So nice to be back.
Yeah, comforting.
Took 1 year off when Alabama had 2 losses last year.
Mm-hmm. But Alabama's back.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Jalen Milroe looks awesome. They just handedly beat Kentucky, so it should be a good game. At this point, I kind of expect Georgia to win, but
never know.
Yeah, we'll see. And then a couple other notable things happened, but mostly chalk. Washington beat Utah 35-28. Washington's margin of victory in the first 4 games of the season. Do you want to guess?
30.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Was that number there? I didn't see it.
No, it wasn't
Okay.
there.
All right, cool. I didn't know if I like subconsciously cheated. Oh, it is there.
Come on. You ruined the illusion.
I don't like being lied to. You were lying to me. I genuinely thought I guessed that myself.
And then their margin of victory since has been 7. So playing a lot of tight games, but as long as they keep winning, and I mean, if they're an undefeated Pac-12 champion, there's probably no way they don't get in.
I feel robbed of what Utah's season could have been.
Without your boy,
Yeah.
Cam Rising.
I was all in on them, man. And I still think they're really good, and they could have been awesome with Cam Rising.
So maybe your team
Next year?
is Utah, just so you can talk about how good that 23 team could have been with Cam Rising.
Is Cam Rising a senior?
He's probably redshirt eligible for this whole season anyway.
That's true, but if he's already redshirted, I don't know anything about his past.
I don't know if he has.
He's a senior, but he could redshirt, so he could theoretically be back? Or is it too late to redshirt? I don't know how that
It's so
works.
hard with, like, anybody that was in college in 2020 because they all have that extra year.
Yeah, you have the COVID year, you have a redshirt year, you have an injury redshirt year.
Yeah.
You could play forever.
There was some guy in NIU last year. I think he was in his 8th season.
I mean, Perry Ellis is still at Kansas.
Hooping.
Yeah, balling out.
Also, Florida State beat Miami 27-20. This one really wasn't as close as the final score makes it seem. There was a late Miami touchdown on a weird fumble. I think it was a fumble recovery play that made it a 1-score game late. But generally, Florida State was in control of this one. The bar we were at when Miami scored exploded, and it was a Wisco bar. So I guess everyone had the U. Oh, also funny story about that before I forget. So it's a Wisco bar.
The bar we were at together?
No. The bar
Oh.
Perry and I went to before dinner
I was about to say.
was a Wisco bar.
Okay.
We get there, and there's less than 3 minutes left of them getting destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
It everybody there is like a Wisco fan.
Mm-hmm.
They score a pity touchdown with a minute 40 left. They play the fight song. It's the saddest fight song I've ever heard played. And Perry just starts going nuts, yeah, let's go Wisco. Just shows up with 2 minutes left in a blowout home loss. Let's go Badgers.
It's a miracle that he's never had his ass kicked. It's a miracle, A, that I haven't done it, and B, that the billions of other people that he's annoyed haven't.
Maybe live on the podcast, we can him versus ex-boxer.
I would be thrilled to officiate that.
Also, Oregon beat USC 36-27. I thought about putting this in its own standalone discussion thing, but I think we're past the point where USC losing is real notable news.
Nah, they're just bad.
Yeah,
Defense
lost to a
is
good
awful.
football team.
Defense is awful.
Yeah, Caleb.
It's going to the league.
Yeah, he's going to. It's just it's weird that he's never gonna play in the playoffs, considering he has played in 3 seasons. Bryce Young, it's weird to me that he didn't win a national championship, but he only played 2. But even still, I don't know.
You expect the best players to play, but I mean, also a lot of the high-powered programs though have low-caliber quarterbacks, kinda.
Yeah.
Steady Bennett was the starting QB for 2?
2 national championships.
Yeah. So it's weird, but it also kind of checks out.
The Rams could have used him if he didn't vanish on his step away from football thing.
He actually looked good in preseason to the point where I've checked in on it throughout the year to see if there's been any updates, and it's just nothing.
He was at the Georgia game the other day. That was the first time he had made a public appearance in months.
Yeah, and it's pretty crazy how tight the lid it has been on that story because no one knows what it is.
Nobody.
Kind of wild. I'm so curious.
Me too. I just want to know.
I know. Just because I'm nosy mostly.
Yeah,
I just
me
like
too.
to know things.
Nosy.
I like to nose things.
Texas beat TCU 29-26. The Longhorns have been pulling out some close losses, but as long as they keep checking off the win column, that's really all that matters for them at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Their goal is just win the conference and hope that's good enough to get into the playoffs. Missouri, don't have anything on this game.
I just have. It would be really exciting if we had Arch Manning appearance, like in a playoff, like a Tua kind of thing.
Yeah, could you imagine?
That would be so cool.
Like they're down.
Yeah.
They're down like 10 with like 38 seconds left in the third quarter, and you see Arch come in, score a touchdown on the first drive. Defense gets a big stop. They get a field goal to tie it, then a turnover, and then this is what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I'm predicting this now.
Okay. I just think it'd be really cool to get the appearance.
Yeah. That's not what happened in the Tua thing, I don't think. I was just making a hypothetical.
Oh, I know.
I imagine is going to happen.
I knew if I let you keep going, you would have kept going.
Yeah, I would have painted like
his whole career.
Yeah, the whole Texas recruiting class, how they would build around him after.
We don't need to go there.
And then, all right, so I have Missouri whoop Tennessee. So cool.
Damn, now I know what I got to do. I got to do a Madden franchise mode.
With Arch Manning?
Yeah, but with the Giants.
So you could, are you gonna sim like a couple seasons, or are you just gonna import his draft class like immediately?
I would sim a couple seasons. I would sim a couple seasons. I don't want to. That messes everything up.
Yeah. All right. So the playoff conundrum. I like alluded to this a little bit. It involves Georgia. It involves Alabama. It involves Washington. It involves Florida State. It involves Oregon. It involves all of the teams we just talked about. But where things stand, the undefeated programs in the country are Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, and Washington. The playoff, as things currently sit with the new ranking coming out tomorrow, it's the first 4 teams. Washington is the first out. 1-loss teams, Oregon, Alabama, and Texas. And right now we are staring at a very possible situation where the winner of Ohio State or Michigan goes on to win the Big Ten, and they're an undefeated Big Ten champion, and they're a lock for the playoffs. Florida State wins out and is an undefeated ACC champion, and they're a lock for the playoffs. And then there's 2 spots between a bunch of teams, and if Alabama beats Georgia and Oregon beats Washington in both conference titles, and Texas wins out and wins the Big 12 championship, then we'll have a 1-loss Georgia, a 1-loss Alabama with a win over Georgia, a 1-loss Texas with a win over Alabama, a 1-loss Washington with a loss to the Pac-12 champions, and a 1-loss Oregon with a loss to Washington. And I have no idea who gets in there, because it's a mess.
Yeah, I was trying to do some transitive property stuff in there, but it all loops all the way around. It's too much.
I don't know how, based on everything the committee stands for, that Texas can be in over Alabama because of the head-to-head if it comes down to them both. But the idea of an SEC champion Alabama with a win over Georgia not getting in is crazy, as is the idea of a 1-loss Pac-12 champion Oregon, as is the idea of a 1-loss in 2 years Georgia not getting in.
I think they have to leave Georgia in.
In with 1 loss?
Yeah.
Then who gets left out? Who gets in with Georgia? It would have to be Alabama then.
Probably.
And then Texas gets screwed kind of with a win over Alabama.
I think Texas would get screwed. I just think you can't keep Georgia out given their track record of 3+ seasons of success, sustained success, and 1 SEC championship loss. Like, that's they literally cannot do that.
But what happens if Washington goes
goes
undefeated, or if Oregon beats Washington? Then either of them gets left out.
I don't know.
I feel like if Washington is an undefeated
I have a solution.
conference champion, they would have to get in over Georgia.
Just expand now. Just expand the playoff now.
It's only fitting that we end with
4 good teams getting cut out.
No, it's got to end in what's the word for like when stuff ends like with an asterisk.
I was gonna say unceremoniously, but
no,
it's. I don't know if there's a word to describe what you're saying. If something ends with an asterisk.
Yeah, no, it's like controversy. That's the one that I keep coming back to.
That is not the definition that you provided.
No, I know, but I meant like when something has a controversial ending.
Wow, you really can't do that word.
I can't.
Controversial.
Controversial. I'm gonna go with that one.
That's not. I mean, it's better than controversial.
It's better, I know.
But it's not great. I'm not thrilled about
when
it.
when something has a controversial ending.
Yeah. All right.
Then I view it as like, oh yeah, but that has an asterisk. Like.
Okay, so your internal definition. Yeah. Okay. All right. I get it.
I didn't mean like what's the dictionary definition
what
for
I
like
was
this
looking
has an
for.
asterisk.
That's what I was looking for. All right. Yeah. I don't know. It's gonna be a lot of unhappy people.
Yeah, I mean, my gut reaction says the committee will do everything it can to find a way to get Alabama in because that's basically why they exist. But I don't know. And another fun fact: the first ever 14 playoff was Alabama, Oregon, Florida State, and Ohio State.
That is fun.
It's
That's a
very,
fun fact.
very close to being that again.
I have a feeling that a lot of these scenarios will sort themselves out, and it won't be a big thing.
Alabama's probably going to be an underdog to Georgia.
Yeah. So I think it will sort itself out, but in the event that it doesn't, and it's just pure mayhem, I'm here for it.
You know who else is here for it?
Paul Feinbaum,
I was going to say All-State.
because you're in good hands.
Mayhem.
Oh, like me.
Yeah.
I was thinking the Allstate guy, a.k.a. Pedro Serrano from Major League.
All-State. But no, yeah, we're in hypothesize about who gets left out season, which is one of my favorite parts of the college football season.
I think it's one of a lot of people's favorite parts.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
People
love drama.
Yeah, I always used to like be in like the dining hall at school, watch on like a Tuesday night, just eating dinner, like watching the ranking show on my laptop, just to see like know immediately who gets left out.
I thought you were about to tell me you'd be like pounding the table, telling everyone around you that this is BU's year to get in.
The non-existent Terriers program.
Is there no football? You went to a school without a football team?
No football team.
What the hell's wrong?
33,000 students, no football team.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard you say to me.
Yeah, no, Rue and I both talk about how like we kind of wish we had been at a school with a football team.
Oh, you too.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, we had a team, but we might as well have not.
we had, I mean, BU has like one of the
the best hockey teams in the country.
but nobody cares about it.
No,
I did see some like really good players in college, which was cool though. Saw Cale Makar because he went to UMass for some reason, so that was like fun.
Okay.
They have the projected #1 pick in next year's draft now, Macklin Celebrini, BU.
That's a really good name.
I think he's Canadian.
Jeremy Macklin Celebrini.
And then, so we'll just recap some of the storylines developing in the early season of NBA action.
Yeah, the biggest probably being James Harden and the immediate failure since he's joined the Clippers. They're 0-4, and his low-light reel is a lot longer than his highlight reel. They look disjointed. Everyone seems unhappy. The vibes are off. And James Harden, the system, is just a system that no one's buying into right now. That was some of my best work, and you didn't even acknowledge it.
This has to be like the final nail in the coffin for the Clippers as a franchise for the next like 2.5 seasons, right? Like they're essentially in purgatory until they can somehow get out from under this financial mess.
Well, they didn't extend Harden, so he's a free agent.
But still, like with all the other guys they have.
They'll have to extend Kawhi and PG or let them leave.
Either way.
But I don't think they let them leave because of the new arena.
Yeah, it brings them back to irrelevancy.
Yeah, and I don't think they do that. But I don't think this is the end. Like, they still have a lot of talent on the team, and I think they can figure it out. Ty Lue's a good coach. That's also, like, very important here. Like, I think Ty Lue is a much better coach than, say, Doc Rivers. And so Doc clearly has had a lot of issues at a lot of points with a lot of players, and including Harden. I think Ty Lue can try to figure it out and just stagger their minutes such that everyone is getting the ball and is getting their shots the way they want to. Kawhi and PG are still really good wing defenders, so like having that advantage is beneficial. Also, like the lack of practice time, like you're playing a totally different system essentially. There's major adjustments, like there's a lot at play here, plus just like rust going into the season. So the sample size is so small that I still think the Clippers are going to be a playoff team. Just the chance that they're a play-in team increases by the day.
In the West especially.
Yeah. They have to figure it out to at least like a little bit soon, or it's going to be really hard to come back from the deficit they're putting themselves in.
Yeah, and I mean, they even got, I don't want to say like a fortunate start, but for example, teams like Memphis being shorthanded because of suspensions and stuff like that. Like the top teams in the West are not at their strongest right now, and to fall behind early puts yourself in an even bigger disadvantage. It's almost like losing like 2 home games in football early.
Which also, to toot my own horn, I did tell you the Grizzlies would struggle.
100%.
So I just wanted to
100%
put that out there.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how not so much the rotation for the Clippers, but also just the way that their offense operates. Like, you'd have to think that some of Westbrook's like ball handling will be deviated to Harden a little bit, but also he's going to need to create opportunities off ball in ways that he really hasn't in a couple seasons, because he's playing with Paul George and Kawhi now, who are good at like creating their own opportunities.
The key is going to be staggering their minutes and figuring out the best rotation where everyone's getting minutes and everyone's getting their shots. And the only time it's really going to be an issue in my eyes is the end of the game and who's getting the shots and who's doing, like, who's the man at the end of the game. Because if you start, I don't think you're going to start all 4, meaning Kawhi, PG, Harden, and Russ. I think you bring Russ off the bench. You can make Harden the first sub. Then you can play Harden and Russ together off the bench when you bring them on. You take Paul George and Kawhi out. You stagger their minutes so that they're not really overlapping so much. So there's ways to do it throughout the game. It's just, but in crunch time, because either yesterday or 2 days ago, I saw they pulled Russ for Harden with 2 minutes to go in the game, and Russ was pissed off. Mm-hmm. And I think it was partially because Harden wasn't playing particularly well. So then are you going by name brand, or is this a meritocracy where you're going with the hot hand? And so it's all Ty Lue's job, really. It's really incumbent upon him to figure everything out. And if there is a coach, there's plenty of coaches I would bet on to figure it out, but he is one of them. So I think it'll sort itself out to some extent. It just is a matter of when and if it's going to be too late for them to actually make some noise.
It bodes well for my Brody 6th Man of the Year prediction.
Well, moving him to the bench helps, but it doesn't bode well because there just may not be enough shots for him to get to the stats that he'll need.
Also true. But, hey, the first part of my prediction came true. So
yeah, it did.
I can cash out now, I guess.
Yeah. Some other surprising teams that I just wanted to mention, because there's a lot going on early in the season. The Rockets have been off to a great start. I think they have they might be the only team in the league with a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense as it currently stands, which it speaks to not only their additions in the offseason, but also just to Ime Udoka and how good a coach he actually is. It's the type of thing where, with the Celtics getting such a talented roster, it's hard to tell if he's actually a good coach. Like Ty Lue with the Cavs is like, how can you tell if this guy's actually a good coach when he has Kyrie Love and LeBron James at the height of his powers? Huh. It's like, you can't. And then he leaves, and it's like, okay, this guy can actually coach. Kind of the same thing with Doc Rivers. Is like, when he left the Celtics, I was like, this guy's the man. And then he went to the Clippers, and he wasn't the man. And then he went to the Sixers, and he definitely wasn't the man. And now he's broadcasting. But Ty Lue, really good coach. Ime Udoka now doing what he's doing with those guys, and Şengün's turning into a star, and Dylan Brooks is playing out of his mind, and it's all coming together like super nicely for them.
Şengün has been one of the highest rated players overall in the league this season. He also looks like he grew like a foot.
I don't know about his growth, but
he looks huge now. I don't remember him like popping off the screen this way. It also is because he's playing well, so there's like more of a focus on him.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the like bit of a star glow to him to start the season, so he pops a little more on screen. Another team that's surprising is the Timberwolves off to 7-2 start. Rudy Gobert looks like a new man again. He like early favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. They are another top 5 defense. That's exciting for them. I don't know. I still don't take them very seriously as like a playoff contender unless Anthony Edwards like is truly a superstar.
I think he is.
But I'm talking like top 5, like I'm carrying this team kind of superstar.
How many players would you take over him right now if you were starting a franchise?
Top of my head? I don't know.
Is it more than 5? I would think I'd be surprised if it was more than 5.
Jokic, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty close with him and Luka. But
I'd
I'd probably take Luka.
Yeah.
But it's getting there.
Wemby?
So early. No, I'm taking Wemby over him. Wemby's got... You can't teach what he has. I mean, not for nothing, Chet's been unbelievable. I wouldn't take Chet over Anthony Edwards, but he's
would
for
you take
sure...
SGA over Anthony Edwards?
Yeah, I would. SGA's already a first-team All-NBA 33-point-per-game scorer. Like, that's tough. So there's guys like Jason Tatum. I don't know. They're pretty close.
I like Tatum.
I know
more.
you do. Like, but Edwards is right there. There's not 10 guys I would take over him. I mean, but I don't have the list in my head. But there's guys.
That was 5 that you named, but I'd be surprised if you take more than that over him.
RJ Barrett.
No way.
No, but I do love him so much. He's off to a great start to the year as well. Halliburton, I would probably take Edwards over Halliburton.
I think me too, but that's a good one.
That is a good one. That one's closer than I solved that one very quickly in my head, but that one is closer than it seemed. But yeah. Otherwise, but moral of the story, Timberwolves are off to a surprising start. Sixers are another team off to a very surprising start at 8-1.
Maxey's been incredible.
Yeah, he had 50 points. I'm not going to say I was wrong about him because I never counted him out. My stance on him has always been I have no idea what his ceiling is. And that wasn't saying it was low, and it wasn't saying it was high. I just truly could not get a read on what he is because his archetype as like a star doesn't really exist in today's NBA. Like no one really plays like he does. You know what I mean? Like even at his size, like his slight build, and he looks pretty small out there. You know what I mean?
He's 6'2"?
Something like that, yeah. So it's just hard to project a guy like him. If he can maintain, obviously not 50 points in a game kind of good, but
Wilt numbers.
But yeah, but 25, if he's like a
25 would be awesome. If he
25 would be awesome
for a season.
But he's not right now. He's I mean, I don't know about the 50-point game might skew it, but before it he was at like 21, 22. But if he's a legitimate second start to Embiid, then all of my Embiid projections to the Knicks are out the window.
And just Sixers timeline projections, because then they're just like a third. They don't even need a third guy. Then they're just like a fill out of a roster away.
It's finding the right role players. Then,
yeah,
which
is a trade deadline thing.
Which they've already been here before, though. They have when they had their chance pretty much already. Now it's just getting to that point again. They should have.
The Butler team, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They should have. That team was really good.
Hey, Ben Simmons ruined it. I mean, I don't know about him singularly, but
also,
Jimmy Butler hated him.
That Kawhi shot. I think they picked Tobias over Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, they did. I think part of that was because Jimmy was like too intense for them.
I think that was part of it, but Jimmy's always said he like him and Embiid were super close. I think part of it was attitude and personality, and part of it was just they thought Ben Simmons and Embiid were the core going forward, and Tobias fit with those two better, even though Jimmy Butler is a significantly better player.
Because of what, like floor spacing ability, stuff like that?
Yeah, just ball dominance and shooting and all the above, and just size even. Like, Tobias is a pretty prototypical 4 that you would want to fit between stars. He's a legitimate power forward who can score the ball and rebound and shoot at a high level. So he is an ideal pairing with a star. So Sixers are surprising. Bucks struggling early. Dame hasn't looked great. I think they'll figure it out, though.
The Sixers, the last thing I have on them is Ewing theory very much in play.
Isn't the Ewing theory just when, like, your best player goes out and a team gets better?
I guess, yeah. But I think it applies to guys like James Harden, too, who is looked at as, like, a superstar, even if he isn't one anymore.
Yeah, I guess, but for this, it feels like there's, like, quantifiable addition by subtraction, like, logic, that it's, like, this makes sense. And
beyond, like, the locker room's happier.
Yeah, well, I do think that is a huge factor here.
That's the Ewing part, though.
But that's also not Nick Nurse is also now the coach, and I think he's just got them playing. Well, okay, so this is both to the locker room and to Nick Nurse. The last year when Harden was out of the game, the way the Sixers played was like a totally different play style. They played fast, and when Maxey ran the show, they were up tempo. But when Harden was in, they were, I think, the 28th fastest paced offense in the league. So very, very slow. And Nick Nurse came in and said, I want us to play fast. I want to get the ball out. I want to get shooters out. I want to do everything, all of this. Harden would dribble the air out of the ball and run a million pick and rolls with Embiid, and that was that. So the team itself is flowing better. I think the chemistry is better, but I think the play style is also better. So it's a lot of factors that make sense. So it's partial Ewing theory, but also just the new head coach paired with the departure of James Harden is like a way. It's maximizing what they have now.
Maximizing.
But yeah, I mean, as it currently stands, Maxey's an MVP candidate. He won't be.
Yeah.
But that's as of right now, he's
taking a huge leap. Yeah.
Yeah. If you were to do after every 10 games an MVP candidate tracker, the Sixers played 9. Maxey would be a top 5 MVP candidate probably.
Right now, he's a first-team All-NBA guy. He was like the Eastern Conference Player of the Month or something like that.
Yeah, that's all I really got. I think the sample is so small still. I know we're like technically like 10 to 12% through the season already, but it's just, it feels like there's so many, like that so much of this doesn't matter. It feels like extended preseason almost, and then we just still don't know who teams are yet.
Got to give it till Christmas.
Yeah. It's like the first few weeks of the NFL season
are meaningless.
Really don't mean anything, and you probably shouldn't take, everything should be taken with a grain of salt. But that's all I got.
Cool. On to football.
Yeah, let's go on to the meat.
All right, NFL talk. So, back to our usually scheduled programming. We've each picked one storyline, one surprise from this past weekend, one disappointment, and then 2 games to look forward to next week. Would you like to kick things off with your first storyline?
Yeah. So my storyline is that the 49ers are back, and I kind of knew that they would be. They have too much talent on their team. I think Shanahan is a great coach. I still think Purdy's a good quarterback. They got Debo back. They looked great. They made the Jags look horrible. I think they're just still a super well-rounded unit, and I knew that they had all this talent, so the win itself didn't do anything for me. Also because I have kind of begrudgingly accepted the Jaguars as a serious contender, almost, I think, because you believed in them so much, so I started to believe in it, but I never really liked what I saw from them. So the win itself isn't what did it. It was just for them to come out and really just beat the shit out of the Jaguars and reestablish themselves as a powerhouse team in the NFL, I think spoke volumes.
What did you think of them trying to force feed Christian McCaffrey a touchdown?
Stupid.
Yeah.
Shanahan always does that stupid shit, though. In blowouts, he'll like play he Tibbses it. Like when you're up big, you take out your starters. It's like
especially injury-prone Christian McCaffrey, who's coming off an oblique injury.
That was stupid. And like, sure, the streak is cool, but no one gives a shit. No one cares at all.
No,
it's meaningless.
No. Are they now first in the NFC West? San Francisco?
Tied with the Seahawks. I still had them top 5 in my power rankings.
Yeah, you did.
Now they're top 4. But, yeah, I don't know. I think they're awesome. They hit the skids a little bit, but...
I don't think anybody was really doubting that this was like a super talented team. I think everyone kind of knew they were just like in said skids, I guess.
I think it's easy to say that now, but when you looked at all the power rankings that other people were doing and they were outside the top 10, I don't think that that's an accurate portrayal of what was happening.
I didn't see those power rankings. I'm not saying they didn't exist.
I saw many that had the Bills, the Seahawks, the Browns, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, all over the Niners.
Damn.
I'm not saying you doubted their status as a real contender, but I think that perception was definitely out there.
Okay. I don't really look at like power rankings that often, so I just didn't know.
I like to see how things change as week to week.
How the power gets re-ranked.
Mm-hmm. It's very reactionary, obviously, as all of the NFL season is, because every game has so much importance, but people were discounting the Niners' early success like a lot. And I think that was wrong.
Well, I mean, yeah, like you've mentioned, there's a lot of Purdy naysayers, Purdy truthers. I think it was a term you used once.
Yeah.
That were just waiting like sharks in water for a smell of blood.
Mm-hmm. And again, there's almost nothing he can do to really get rid of all of his naysayers.
I don't know. I mean, we're too young to remember what, like, the talk about Brady was when he took over.
So different, because it's all localized back then. No social media, and it's like the discussion is just totally different with how it is now. So it's hard to even compare it to a past era.
In terms of like the shit the fans say, yeah. But there was still, I mean, I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me if, like, during Brady's first season, which was a run to the Super Bowl, that there was a lot of, like, they're going to lose eventually. This guy's a 6th-round draft pick.
I guess, but I still feel like most things were more localized back then. Like, I bet it was, like,
they
New
were.
England talk radio. There was probably a lot of that. But nationally, the coverage just wasn't so argumentative. Like, it was like people wrote articles, and then there was sports radio.
Yeah.
Sports radio became sports TV. You know, it was like a totally different world.
Yeah, true.
So it's hard to compare it. But I just still think the guy's pretty good. Pretty good.
Pretty good. White trash Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so my storyline is that it's done in New England. I'm just not sure for who exactly. I know it's done for Mac Jones. I would be pretty stunned if it was done for Belichick during the season. I think you probably agree about that.
Mac Jones has had 2 of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in my whole life.
And it's really hard with Mac Jones interceptions to even rank them on like the scale of bad Mac Jones plays, because there's like 2 a game that are just, oh my God.
I think he's regressed so much. I think his confidence is shot. I think he's just broken, honestly. And being benched multiple times by your head coach probably will do that to you. And I just think last year's demons are too much for him to overcome. It's very Sam Darnold-y to me. It feels that way.
Could it be Tua-y, though?
Where
the same thing kind of happened under Flores for him.
Where the ship could get righted. Is there another Mike McDaniel that you could bring in and do that? I don't know if Tua...
It would probably be him going somewhere else.
Yeah, I just don't think Mac has as much talent as Tua.
I agree with that.
This goes back to it's the Sam Darnold on the Niners, the Mac Jones. If you put anyone on like with talent on the Niners, they're going to perform. It's hard. I feel like it's harder to salvage what's happened to Mac now. If those throws, he's making inexcusable types of interceptions.
Yeah.
He underthrew. He was off his back foot for no reason. There wasn't even pressure in his face, and he underthrew him by 15 yards.
Yeah, no, it's like the kind of underthrow that looks like somebody that's never played football.
Either that or someone who's high.
Yeah. Let me put some touch on this.
Yeah. That was the Mahomes interceptions that we were seeing that one game. To answer your point about Belichick, I definitely don't think he'll be fired midseason. I still would be surprised if they fire him after the year.
Me too. So,
There's a lot of talk of it, and you were ahead of the game on that, to your credit. And I thought they would be more competent this year, especially just ridding themselves of Matt Patricia. But would I be shocked if they bring back Josh McDaniels next year and they turn it around a little bit? Not really. I don't know. I have a hard time counting out Belichick. I've heard rumors of him getting traded.
Yeah.
Which would be cool.
Before fired, I think he would get traded.
I agree, because I think then it would be his say-so to go somewhere else. I doubt him as a GM, Belichick. I don't doubt him as a coach. I think he's done a pretty bad job as GM.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Every personnel move since drafting Mac Jones, basically, from the signing of Jonnu Smith and Aguilar to huge deals, to the hiring of Patricia, like you said, as OC.
Devontae Parker extension in the offseason when he's like their fourth best wide receiver. Like, there's a lot of questionable moves, and I mean, the guy's actually pretty good, but like, was it Cole Strange?
The first round draft.
Yeah, he was from like UC Chattanooga, right?
I think that's exactly where he's from.
The fact that I know that shows how bizarre the pick was at the time, because everyone was like, "Who? Like, this guy wasn't even on our board." And he turned out, I think he's actually pretty solid. But again,
Chattanooga.
Yeah, okay. So if you can get him in the fourth round, though, that's great value. But getting him in the first when he wasn't on anyone else's radar is stupid. It's being a bad GM. I think if he went somewhere else, I mean, it was the same thing that happened to Bill O'Brien, honestly. Good coach, horrible GM. I think it's really hard to do both.
Chip Kelly.
Yeah. It's just once you start doing both, I think both things start going downhill.
Yeah, so the way I'm kind of envisioning this is that at some point in the timeline of existence in the universe, Bill Belichick and Bob Kraft will have a conversation that will go something like, look, Bill, you've led an unprecedented reign of sustained success. Your place in NFL and Boston history is written in stone. It's not getting washed away. But you need to start turning this thing around, or we're going to have to do what we think is best for the organization. I just don't know if that is happening, like you said, the day after the season ends. I don't know if it happened last season. So at 100%, Bill Belichick will have months of advanced warning that he's on a short string. It's not going to stun anybody outside of that building when he gets fired. We just, as the outside public, have no idea when that is going to happen or if it has happened.
And we honestly shouldn't.
No, Belichick, that everything around him has always been secret. He's, I think, like the one coach that nobody knows what his contract details are.
Yeah, well, there was that report that he got a huge extension in the offseason, but no one knows what the dollar amount is or if it even happened or for how long it is.
Nobody ever has, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like him, Bob Kraft, and his agent, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. It also could be a conversation of, look, Bill, we want to keep you around, but we don't like your moves as GM. And then that discussion could lead to Belichick getting pissed off and wanting out.
Yeah, 100%. And they're going to be in a position to take potentially a new quarterback with a top 5 pick. And it's going to come down to who does Kraft feel comfortable leaving that decision to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really all I had for our friends up in New England.
All right. So then my surprise is Sam Howell. He's continued to play, honestly, like really well. The Washington football team lost a tough game to a pretty talented Seahawks team that was not in a must-win situation, but in a we probably should win this one situation. He threw for another 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Honestly, all year he's been pretty awesome, minus that one game against the Bills where he was horrendous. He's got some questionable moments as he's still learning the ropes, but I think he's like in most counting stats, like a top 10 quarterback. And
he's first in passing yards.
Yeah. Granted, they're airing the ball out like it's nobody's business, but he's honestly been really good. And
he's tied for third in touchdowns.
And he's thrown, I think, like 11 picks or something, which isn't amazing. I could be overselling it, but he hasn't been super turnover prone. coming into the year, I liked what I saw from him last year in the very small sample size. I thought he had the potential to be more than just a bridge quarterback, but it seemed like everyone was pushing the narrative of new ownership. This guy's not going to be the guy no matter what. But I think the way he's played, it's going to be really hard to move on from him.
He's got 9 picks on the season.
So, yeah, I said 11, so I even oversold it. He's been really good. And 3 of them were in one game, his worst game of the year by far.
And like you said, he's getting killed back there behind the offensive line, but it feels like he's done a better job minimizing that a little bit because a lot of them were him holding the ball too long. Like, for example, against Philly, he had 1 sack 2 weeks ago, so it seems like he realizes when he's facing a ferocious pass rush that he needs to speed his internal clock up a little bit. And even like the advanced metrics back him up, his completion percentage over expected, which is a measure I guess that's exactly what it sounds like, but he's 6th in the league. His EPA is a little more middle of the pack. It's 18th, but also that's slightly a product of the kind of plays that are being called for him. And they're starting to let him play a little more, but they had the first starts leash on him earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm. Also, though, a guy who was, I think, was a 5th-round pick.
4th, I think.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll say 4th, even for argument's sake. If he's 18th in EPA as essentially a first year as a starter, arguably like his rookie season playing wise, getting 18th EPA out of a 4th-round pick is
5th-round pick
is pretty awesome, and I think it would be silly to move on from that kind of potential.
He's certainly shown enough that it should be his job next season, and they won't even be in a position to like take. It's not like he's playing well
and they're losing.
Yeah, like Davis Mills kind of has, or like Minshew did for like periods.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. They're not even going to be in pole position to get like a top end first round quarterback. They win too many games for that.
100%.
Also, not for nothing, MC Bobinson is now a top 4 fantasy running back.
Well, he had 1,000 points on that 1 catch last week.
Hey, man, top 4 is top 4.
Yeah.
MC Bob is real.
My surprise from this past weekend is the Arizona Cardinals. So on the outside, it shouldn't be super surprising because it's a bad but seemingly well-coached team that is getting its max contract, former number 1 overall pick, back and beat a team that came into the game under 500 in the Atlanta Falcons. But it's a surprise because Kyler looked awesome. He had 249 passing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and a few times that he escaped pressure. He looked super quick when he got into open space. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure that the Cardinals are gonna take a quarterback in the draft, even if they have like a top 2 pick, which I don't think they will anymore because getting Kyler back and the way he looked, they'll probably win a couple more games. But a lot of like national analysts are saying that because of his contract, there's really just no way that they can move on to a new quarterback. And I'm very interested to see how they look over the next couple weeks because, I mean, they were supposed to be hot garbage, and they really, for most of the season, haven't looked like that.
When Josh Dobbs was their quarterback, they were competitive almost in every single game. They should have beat the Giants. I wish they'd beaten the Giants. I don't want to say they should have beaten other teams, but they were in very close games against other good teams. And I think not only is it like a testament to how good their coaching is and how good their offensive system is, also because they were continuing being competitive even when James Conner went down and they had Amari DiMercato back there. Like, they were still a largely competitive team minus the Clayton Tune game. So that speaks to the current regime, but also now Kyler coming in and looking awesome again, I think speaks to Cliff Kingsbury and how bad their system was, and making Kyler basically like a check down short yardage artist, and which kind of diminishes a lot of what makes him special. I think it was surprising to see him look so mobile.
100%.
That was the most surprising thing. I think he had one late game escape artist kind of play that in the fourth quarter. He had sealed the game. He ran probably like 40 yards in total in a full circle, and it was amazing. And those kind of plays, I mean, we talked about it last week. It's what makes you see things like that, and it's what makes players special. And Kyler has special ability. It just seemed like, whether it was coaching or whether it was his video game addiction, it seemed like he had kind of plateaued. Now, with his talent level and seemingly this really good system and really good coaching staff, and he's got decent weapons around him, like, he could just be relaunching his career and could be a top 10 quarterback like everyone thought he would be.
Yeah, he's 26 years old. His head coach is the guy who most recently worked with Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma. They went from Kyler to Jalen Hurts, so like those guys have a skill set that is very translatable. Not translatable is probably not the right term, but that the things that make a coach mesh well with one of them translates to the other.
They have similar skill sets in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think it could be very interesting. Like, honestly, if you're a Cardinals fan and over the last couple of weeks of the season, the offense is like really functioning and you have 2 top 10 picks, which I guess you won't now because the Texans are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I didn't even think about that. But if you have 2 first-round picks, like, that changes things if you don't need a quarterback all of a sudden.
Yeah, you can get, like, day one contributors at other positions, like other super valuable positions.
Yeah.
I don't think... Yeah, I think that his contract isn't movable, and that's what I've heard from people who know more than I do. But also, I don't think they'll want to move on from him. I think they have... Maybe not... No, they have... I think they have a franchise guy in-house.
They have a guy with a skill set that doesn't exist on most people on earth.
Yes. He's, at his worst, a top 15 quarterback in the NFL.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. It's hard to find those guys.
100%.
Bears been trying to do it for how long?
100 years.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else on that?
No, that was all I had.
All right. So my disappointment was the Ravens. They had a 14-point lead late in the fourth quarter in what should have been a division essentially stealing win against the Browns, which then turned into a disappointing loss. I don't know if there's anyone in particular that you can point the finger at here. Like, Lamar's late pick 6 was an insane deflection that 9 times out of 10 hits the turf. Keaton Mitchell, though,
Baller.
given serious Devon A-Chain vibes. I think if I had to point to something in that game, the Ravens should have given him the ball more. He had a carry early. It was a 39-yard touchdown. They ran a screenplay for him later on in the game. It was a 32-yard reception. The guy's just got explosive talent, and yet they were feeding the ball to Gus Edwards, who is a plotting running back he's basically LeGarrette Blount. He's a red zone specialist. And those guys have value, but when you have a Keaton Mitchell or a Devon A-Chan or something like that who's got that game-breaking ability, you give them the ball. So that was, if there was one thing I could point to that they should have done more, it was give him the ball. But if the Ravens had held on to their lead, they would be 8-2, which would have made the Browns 5-4. The Bengals lost to the Texans, so they're 5-4. And somehow the Steelers, who have been outgained in every single game this year, are 6-3.
First time since 1933, I think.
That's happened.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's a Mike Tomlin masterclass, as always.
Mike Tomlin, not to interrupt, but is, in his last 7 years, something like 48-25 in one-score games, which essentially we know are coin flips.
Yes, it's basically statistically impossible to be as good as he is.
Yes.
Yeah, but moral of the story, even with, if the Steelers were 6-3 and the Bengals and Browns were 5-4, the Ravens at 8-2 would have essentially locked up the division, and this just makes their road a lot harder.
The Ravens have 3 losses this season, and all 3 of them, if you had stopped watching with like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter and saw the score later in the day, you would have been like, what the fuck happened?
I'm going to botch the stat because I don't have it directly in front of me. But I saw that, I think, of their last 7 losses, in either the fourth quarter or in the second half, they had, in half of them, a 75% win probability, and in the other half, they had a 90% win probability. So for them to have lost all of them was like a 0.0006% chance that would happen. So, like, it's borderline insane that the way that they're losing these games, especially with Harbaugh as a coach. Like, it's really weird. I don't know. I don't I can't possibly pinpoint what the reasoning behind that is.
This one just kind of happened.
Yeah,
Like, just out of nowhere.
I know.
It was just like, what? Oh, man. Like, this is turning.
I saw that the Browns didn't have the lead. It was like the longest a team went in a game that they won without having the lead. Something like that. Do you understand what I just said to you?
I do. I question if that's true.
I think it was like 59 minutes and 30 seconds or something like that.
But what if, like, I mean, I feel like plenty of times a team doesn't lead until, like, a game-winning field goal as time expires. Oh, but I guess that would be not having the lead at all, technically, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be 0 seconds of having the lead.
They became just the fourth team in the modern Super Bowl era to win after trailing in the first minute of regulation and not leading until the final minute of regulation.
Gotcha. Okay. So go down super early because of the Hamilton pick six.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Come back and win with under
an
a minute.
hour later.
Yeah.
An hour of game time later.
Yeah. So, again, unprecedented loss, as they all pretty much have been. For how good they are, now for them to make their life this hard is disappointing.
Especially in this division.
Yeah, which
dropping a game like this.
I mean, you can't explain the Steelers, but they're finding ways to win, and so
They just know at this point it's not even like the Vikings like one-score game record last year. It's just these guys know how to win.
Yeah, Tomlin is just a different breed. That's all I got.
All right, cool. My disappointment ties into your surprise. Actually, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
They came into this game 6-2 with wins over the following: the Colts, the Falcons, the Bills, the Colts again, the Saints, and the Steelers. These are all not complete teams. Like, for example, the Steelers have an awesome defense like we've talked about, but their offense is pretty bad. The Colts have one of the weirder teams because on any given day, they can put up 3 points, they can put up 30 points, they can give up 12 points, they can give up 45 points. The Saints have a great defense, bad offense, so you get the point. They've lost to Kansas City, they've lost to Houston, and they've lost to San Francisco by EPA. Kansas City and San Francisco are both in the top 7 for offensive and defensive, so much more well-rounded teams. Houston has an explosive offense, but their defense is 22nd, so less so. But the point is, when they run into teams that are like elite on both sides of the ball, they tend to lose. This one, they just got bullied by San Francisco all game. They got out-physicaled at the line of scrimmage, out wide with wideouts blocking. Trevor Lawrence has lost 18 fumbles since 2021, which is the most in the NFL. And this season, they're a good team defensively, the Jaguars. They're 4th in passing EPA per play, and they're 9th in rushing, but they're really struggling offensively. They're 18th in EPA per play passing and 28th in EPA per play rushing. And I was reading into this a little bit today. There's a theory, and I guess it's a little more than a theory, but it's from Jags fans, that the reason behind this is because Peterson has delegated play calling duties.
You suck, dude.
What?
That was my note on your
Roll with it.
Yeah. Go. Oh, no, you.
No,
can,
go.
Well, basically that when Peterson was with the Chiefs, Andy Reid gave him play calling duties to bolster his resume and to help him become a head coach in the future. Now, Peterson is doing the same with Press Taylor, and this is now Trevor Lawrence's 3rd OC in 3 years, and Press Taylor is just not as good as Peterson, and it's led to basically the regression of Trevor Lawrence. Not back to Urban levels, but certainly regressed back from where he was last year.
Yeah, and another fun fact, Press Taylor also was the play caller in Peterson's last year in Philly, which was by far his worst season there. This guy's career suicide for Peterson.
Yeah, so I just think he should retake play calling duties. That was also my note.
No, I agree 100%. I think that would totally right the ship because we know Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. Yeah, the fumble stats alarming, but I mean, eye test and like advanced metrics wise, this guy's by all means a franchise guy. So I'm not super worried about that long term going forward, but definitely they need to make changes because what they're running out on offense this season is not working.
It just seems like nothing is clicking. It seems like they can't get Ridley involved. They're very reliant on the short passing game. I think he's getting the ball out 2nd fastest in the NFL.
It is, yeah.
Which, I mean, can be a good thing, but isn't right now, obviously. Like, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's why I've had questions about them all year. It just felt like their offense was never clicking, and it was epitomized in this last game.
100%.
You got anything else?
No, we can go on to games to watch for.
All right, so I got one this week, and it's Chiefs-Eagles on Monday Night Football. I honestly don't even have a prediction for this one. It's just going to be an awesome game. They're the two best teams in football, I think, personally. So can't ask for I mean, realistically, the game's going to end up being a friggin' stinker because it's a primetime game, and most of them are. But you can't ask for a better regular season matchup.
No, this is, I mean, anytime you get a Super Bowl rematch in primetime, and yeah, it's the two top seeds in each conference, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Doesn't, on paper, get better than that.
My prediction, Eagles 23, Chiefs 14.
Okay.
17.
Well, with all 17 scored in the first half.
Yes.
Yeah.
On 3 consecutive drives.
The only reason I'm also reluctant to pick, I know the Chiefs have had their struggles, but they're coming out of their bye, and I'm a firm believer in teams coming out of their bye breaking out. Granted, the Eagles are also coming out of their bye, so I don't know what to make of that. But I don't know. I have a hard time betting against Andy Reid coming out of the bye.
27-4 out of his bye.
I have a hard time betting against the man.
I just think Philly's a more complete team.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yes, I understand it, but the Chiefs' defense is now also so good that it's their offense that's making them not the complete unit, but their offense has Patrick Mahomes. So that's why
I get what you're saying. I have a don't bet against Mahomes rule.
Yeah.
For a reason.
Mm-hmm. For a reason.
Except when it didn't outweigh my don't bet. Well, actually, that it did. I let it outweigh my don't bet against Brady rule once, and I regretted it for the rest of my life.
I did the same, actually. We both lost. I think we both lost money the same exact way.
Yeah.
Except I made one huge Hail Mary bet in that one.
AB and
Gronk touchdowns. Yeah. Saved my whole night. I broke even. Yeah.
So I have 2 games to watch for, unless you have more on that one.
No, I think that's it. Oh, one thing.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift seem genuinely happy.
Yeah.
It's nice, actually. It's very wholesome, and I'm happy for them.
You could bet if I was a Chiefs fan, I would be wanting him to stop traveling overseas every day, though.
Not unless she gets to the games and then he balls out again.
That's true.
But also, last thing, NFL changed their Twitter headline thing, their cover photo. It was Taylor Swift. Now it is Josh Dobbs.
Wow, that's an upgrade.
Yeah.
I've actually somehow painted myself as anti-Taylor Swift because of that award I gave out yesterday. I'm not. I just like making fun of, like,
that you saved, that she saved the NFL?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was funny, though.
Thank you. All right, so my first game is Bengals at Ravens. The Bengals were super hot, but they dropped a game to Houston this past weekend. C.J. Stroud had another incredible game, but now the Bengals are last in the division, and like you said, this AFC North is big boy football, and the Ravens are also coming off a crushing loss. So this is really going to go a long way towards determining how that division shapes out the rest of the way forward.
Huge ramifications in this game.
Massive, yeah. A loss here would make making the playoffs extremely difficult for Cincinnati, which is crazy.
It is crazy, but it just goes back to our early season discussion.
Yeah.
They put themselves in this spot, so no sympathy from me.
It's literally like what we were saying about the Clippers in the West. Like, the Bengals in the AFC North, you can't drop games early.
Yeah, when you willingly dig a hole for yourself, it's really hard to get out of.
Yeah. And then my second game is Cowboys at Panthers, because nothing is going to hit me like a low blow quite like the Cowboys after a month of playing fantastic football, losing to the Panthers, and sabotaging the Bears' chances of getting the number 1 pick.
I mean, that would just be the most Cowboys thing ever.
Happened with the Cardinals.
Yeah. It would check out. I never, ever pretty much bet on the Cowboys at this point. They always find a way to surprise one way or the other, and they also never play normal games. it's either a blowout pretty much. Either they're getting blown out or they're blowing someone out. I think they have like 2 normal games all year. So if they were to get shown up by the Panthers, I wouldn't be that surprised.
This is just what they do. They get blown out by the well, actually they didn't get blown out by the Eagles, but they got blown out by the Niners. Go 3-1 after that with some really impressive wins and like a hard-fought loss to a really good football team. And the hype, and then they lose to Carolina, and it just all comes crashing down. Jerry Jones, it's another picture of him being racist online, and yeah.
Which also, I mean, people are now all aboard the Cowboys bandwagon after this big win over the Giants. The Giants suck.
Yeah.
This win means nothing. This win does nothing to change anything for the Cowboys. They're the same team they were 2 days ago. They beat the Giants are the worst team in football right
Which is
now.
a good team, though.
What?
The Cowboys. Where they were 2 days ago, which is still a really good team.
Yeah, I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying this win didn't do anything, and it shouldn't have done anything to change public perception of them.
I agree.
They're the same team.
Yeah.
The Giants just stink.
I agree with that.
That's all. But now they're all over ESPN. I've seen Dak on TV more today than I have all season. So it's all because he had 5 touchdowns against the worst team in football. It doesn't mean a thing. A team that's trying to lose, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely.
I just hope so. That's all I'll say.
Do you want to move on to awards?
Yeah, I started with the meat. So you want to give yours first?
Yes. Okay. My first award of today's show is the Santa Tracker Award.
I know what the Santa Tracker is. It's, Christmas Eve, that little fake map that has Santa all over the world on it. Yeah, okay, so this has to do with something that you're keeping tabs on?
Not me personally.
That a lot of people are keeping tabs on, but ultimately means nothing?
It doesn't, I wouldn't say it means nothing.
Okay. That's something that, is it the college football playoff thing?
It's a college football thing, but it doesn't have to do so much with multiple teams.
The Heisman race?
No.
I don't know.
This is flight tracker for the Texas A&M Jet, because when big-time schools are looking for coaches, fans of that school tend to track where the school's private plane is going.
To see who they're meeting with.
And let's say if it shows up in, like, Oxford, Mississippi one day, yeah, and everyone goes viral, like Texas A&M meeting with Lane Kiffin, or if it's like in Eugene, Oregon, Texas A&M meeting with Dan Lanning. So we're in for a lot of that over the next couple weeks.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, never would have guessed that. So my first award is the Player Who Has Made Me Most Proud award.
Is this going to somebody whose effort is palpable and you can't help but root for them?
No.
True underdog story?
No. This is just someone that has made me personally very proud and vindicated.
And vindicated. And vindicated.
I will give you the hint that it's a basketball award.
I figured, actually.
Okay.
Is it McCall Bridges?
No, it is not. Do you want one more guess, or do you want me to tell you?
I want one more guess.
Okay. Not Frank Ntilikina.
Is it going to Mitchell Robinson?
No, it is not.
All right.
It is going to R.J. Barrett.
He was actually my probably second to next guess.
Well, he's probably my favorite player in the league now. Has been teetering. He's been my favorite Knick for a long time, which it basically equates to my favorite player. And he's come out of the gates hot. He's averaging 23 a game, 49% from the field, 50% from three. His free throw average is up to 85%. He's typically been a slow starter, which has, on the whole, affected his season stats and his efficiency stats, and they've always counted against him. But this year, in the summer, he played for Team Canada, so it seems like he has no rust to shake off. He actually sat out of tonight's game because he had a migraine, which can't blame him. I did the same thing last week for our podcast. And all last year, I had to deal with people hating on him to such an extent that I was literally talking to a content creator that I respect on Twitter, asking if I'm insane for still believing in this guy when no one else seems to. I have the receipts for it, and he sided with me and agreed that everyone else is just buying into the narratives, and I was right. Now that he's playing at an all-star level this season, and he seems to be the legitimate third star on the Knicks thus far. He's playing confidently, he's playing freely, and they play significantly worse without him, and the numbers show that and reflect that. So, and he showed flashes of this in last year's playoffs, and I feel vindicated because of it.
What is your realistic best case scenario for his 3-point shooting percentage this season?
It's not going to stay at 50, obviously.
He's not.
But if his free throw shooting can stay above 80%, that's a huge improvement, and it'll bump up his scoring average significantly. If he could,
do you think he could be like a 37% shooter from beyond the arc this season?
He's done it before, so yeah.
Has he? I didn't know he shot that well.
That
not on volume though, right? From 3?
It was the year he averaged 20 a game the first time, so 2 seasons ago.
Wow,
So
I had no idea.
For those who couldn't hear Producer Rue, the whole Knicks starting 5 averaged 40% from 3 the year that they got massacred by the Hawks in the playoffs. Yeah, obviously, yeah, excluding Mitch. But that year he averaged 18 a game on 40% from 3. But his field goal percentage was 44%. This year it's 49%, 48.7.
Teetering on 50, 40,
90.
50, 50, 85.
Yeah. So obviously his 3-point shooting will level out significantly. But I could see him, and on volume, I actually didn't see how many attempts per game. Yeah, no, it was 4 attempts per game. Now he's at 5.7. So it's not crazy to think he could be a 37, 38% shooter.
On 6 attempts a game, that's good.
That would be amazing. I'd be thrilled for that. And also, not only is he scoring, though, he's playing phenomenal defense. Opponents are shooting only 40% when defended by him. He's playing like a true two-way star.
And playing at a level that makes his deal steal now.
Yeah. It was all, I mean, yeah. It
was always a hometown discount.
Exactly. I mean, he's getting paid.
It was 4 for 100?
Yeah.
5 for 100?
Something like that, yeah. So nothing crazy by any means. They've honestly got all their guys on real sweetheart deals. The one who's going to blow that up is going to be Quickly.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
My second award is the Bye Week of the Week award.
This is going to the Niners.
This is going to the Niners. Yeah, they had the best bye week of anybody probably this season. I mean, they were on a three-game losing streak going into it, and they just blew out on the road a division leader.
I'm a firm believer in the bye week. There's magic in it. Rookies break out after it. Teams rewrite the ship after it. It's a magical time.
Apparently, yeah. And the Niners won the bye week.
Thoroughly. Easily. Handedly. The Niners did win it, yeah. All right, so my second award, speaking of Emmanuel Quickley, is the Emmanuel Quickley with Opportunity Award, which is a nod to our friend Matt.
It's not going to Maxey, right?
It is going to Maxey.
Oh, sweet.
We've always joked that Maxey is just Quickley with opportunity and a green light, essentially. Guy put up a 50-burger this weekend. I think Quickley has the same explosive ability where he's capable of putting up a 50-burger. I think he's put up like 37, maybe more in a game, if I remember correctly. But we've always said that Quickley is maybe not to the caliber of Maxey, but he's close when given opportunity. And so I wanted to give a little nod to Matt, give a little credit to Quickley, and shout out Maxey for his 50-burger.
I'm waiting on you to nod. Nice.
I was nodding.
Yes, but you said... not since you said give a nod to Matt, I don't think.
Okay. Nodding to Matt.
Do you want to go first for bold predictions, too? Because I went first for awards.
Yes, this is good. My bold prediction actually kind of goes to something you said, and it is that Bryce Young will have a star performance against the Cowboys. I had it that the Panthers lose the game, so at least you had that going for you. And this is based on absolutely nothing, given the fact that I don't even believe in him, nor has he given me any reason to believe in him, other than having you at his backing. That's the only reason that I have to believe in him. But it's a bold prediction for a reason, so if he's ever going to show me something, it's now.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. Oh, and while we're here, I was spot on with my bold prediction last week. Josh
you were.
Dobbs continued his magical run and did upset the Saints. So that was very exciting for me.
Yeah, you did nail that one.
That was big. That was big.
My bold prediction of the year of this week is that Oklahoma is going to lose on the road in Provo, Utah, to the BYU Cougars.
Okay, I have truly no thoughts on this.
Oklahoma is a 24.5-point favorite.
Wow.
So I think that qualifies as bold.
Is Jaron Hall heading back to QB what are they?
The Cougars.
The Cougars?
Yeah, he's not. This is at noon. It should be a beautiful setting. The BYU Stadium, Lavelle Edwards Stadium, is right under some mountains. Our aforementioned friend Matt has sent us a picture of it. Maybe that was just the baseball stadium. But I think they're going to beat Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma stinks.
Fraudulent. Will you bet that game?
Yeah, that one I'll bet.
You'll bet BYU money line?
Yeah. Why not?
If you remind me, I'll take that with you.
I will.
For like $1.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to put any real money on it. $1 is pretend. So, now that we're done with our awards, and our bold predictions, we can get into the moment everyone's been waiting for. I've got the names loaded up in here for the giveaway. We are going to spin the magical wheel of names here, and you are going to find out who wins the Jason Dominguez autographed mini helmet. Drum roll, please. Wait, actually, no drum roll, please. It'll mess up the mic. Rue, you can do it over there. Tap to spin. Go. And we will find out the winner shortly. The winner is Chris Petro.
Oh!
What a win for Chris Petro. And we will spin for second place in case Chris Petro does not claim.
Yeah, so Chris Petro, you were the winner of the giveaway. If you hear this, see it online.
We're going to post it on Instagram as well, but you have to claim it to win.
Yeah, you have to message us so we can figure out how to send it to you. So shoot us a message. Chris Petro, the first winner. Tom's spinning again in case Chris Petro does not message us so we can see a second place to give the prize helmet to.
And our second YouTube subscriber is Cheyenne Smith.
Chris Petro is the first winner. If you get in contact with us, the helmet's yours. If not, Cheyenne Smith, get in contact with us also. And if the first winner does not reach out to us, then you will be the helmet winner. We'll give them like a couple 3-day grace period.
Yeah, we'll post it on. Yeah, we'll post it on our story. I'll probably post it on Thursday just so it comes out at the same time as the episode, and we'll give him until next week to claim, and if not, we'll figure it out from there.
Cool.
But thank you, Cheyenne. Thank you, Chris Petro. Congratulations.
Tom, you want to tell them where to find us?
Yes, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on social media, x.com, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. I think that's all the social medias. They're starting to trip me up even worse than ever. I'm somehow regressing. Podbean, if we want to go down that route again. So yeah, you can find us. You can look us up. So apologies, that was my worst one yet, but I got too excited from the Wheel of Names.
Good episode.
Good episode.
This was episode 30 of the Breaks Down podcast by 528 Collectibles. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, producer Rue. Thank you, Mikey Caps. Thank you to our giveaway entrants and both half-fish winners. I'm Adam Hartog. Breaks Down podcast 528.
See you next week.